Gardening, the dream of producing your own vegetables. In this video, I'll walk you step by step through the easy steps to create your own raised bed vegetable garden. You can show your support for this channel by clicking the like button, sharing on social media, providing feedback in the comments section, and don't forget as a subscriber to click the bell icon below to get updates. Enjoy the video. Like every good story about gardening, we started our local Home Depot to get lumber and other miscellaneous supplies to build a garden. So we just got through hitting up Home Depot and get everything we needed. And we came out to about a whopping, let me see if I can get that to focus. Yeah, about $112 in total. And get everything we need. The vermiculite, the peat moss, compost, some weed control, and then our boards. So we're going to go ahead and load this up and start building it at home. Now that I've got all of the supplies loaded up into the truck, time to head home to get this started.
Okay, so now we're ready to begin the project. What we're going to do is first talk about what we'll need for the project. We're going to need 4 2x6 boards, and preferably some type of wood that is resistant to rain or at least can last for a long time in the outdoors, something like cedar. I believe I got Douglas fir, I forget exactly, but it was a wood that is untreated, and that's one thing that's very important. You don't want wood that's been treated with any chemicals because that will leach into the dirt. The next thing that I've got is a weed block, weed control. I'll put this underneath to make sure that weeds don't come up. I don't want weeds, obviously, in my garden. We're going to have a tarp that we'll use when we begin to mix our soil. For the soil itself, we're going to be using a few different ingredients. We've got vermiculite. This is, you can pick these up. I think I picked this up at Home, well actually I did pick it up at Home Depot. And ideally you want a coarse option or a coarse vermiculite. I went with a medium because that was all they had and I couldn't find anywhere in the area where they had any type of coarse or medium. Let's see, I've got compost, I've got peat moss, and one of the things we're going to be doing is we'll do 8 cubic feet of soil. And so I've got all that set up. And so also we'll be using twine. We'll use this to separate out the different squares in the garden. Some wood screws, some wood deck screws to keep the board together. And I went with this over traditional nails or just screws to make sure that this all stays together really nice and tight. A hammer. We'll be using nails for the twines whenever we do the square garden setup, whatever we create the different little grids in the garden. We'll need a drill. We'll do some pre-drilling on the boards, and I would say in a nutshell that's basically what we need to get started. Okay, so the next thing that we'll do is we'll begin to mark these boards off to prepare them to pre-drill some holes so that whenever we put together the frame we'll have these holes already set up. Now I am using wood deck screws and it's not important that we do this, but it just makes sure that the wood doesn't split when we start drilling into it. Alright. So what we'll do is we'll just take the boards and I'm going to stack them on the end right here, flush up against this edge. And I'm sorry you can't see it, but on the other side I'm just going to draw a line along the back of the board so I know the width of the board whenever I go to drill the holes. So now I've got this perfect line that shows me exactly where to drill my holes, or rather how wide this is going to be whenever I fit it up against the end of this board. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll just go board by board and just set up each one of these. Now that we've marked off our boards, I'm just going to drill some holes so that whenever we go to add our screws in, it's just going to make it a little easier for them to go into the board. Okay, so now we finished drilling the holes, so let's go to the next step. Alright, so our next step is going to be to frame up these boards. So let's put them together. What we'll do is we'll just stick them end to end, and we'll set everything up for these holes that we've already drilled so we can just pop it right in. So here we go. So now we've set up our frame for our box. As you can see, we've got each end here butted up against the other board.
So they're not exactly like you would just, you wouldn't set this board on the inside. You're just kind of setting them, end to end like this. And so now what we'll do is we'll begin to drop in, or rather put in the wood deck screws.
Okay, so I am using wood deck screws. I'm going to drop these in on the ends. These screws are just great. They don't pull out pretty much for anything. So here we go.
Okay, so there we have it. We have a simple 4-foot square raised bed garden. And as we just showed a second ago, put in wood deck screws to make sure everything gets held together really nice and tight. And it's just so much easier to use wood deck screws whenever you're framing everything up. So that's the initial setup. So the next thing I'm going to do is set up weed control. That will help take care of any issues with weeds coming in once we have the garden set up.
With our soil put down on the tarp, I started by misting the mixture down a little to keep the wind from blowing it around. Remember, don't put too much water or it will get too heavy. The soil that I'm using is an equal mixture of vermiculite, peat moss, and compost. The box is 4 foot square and 6 inches tall, so that means we'll need 8 cubic feet of planting soil. I'm using the planting mix called Mel's Mix, which is detailed in the book, All New Square Foot Gardening. I'll put a link in the description below to this book, which I highly recommend. The author takes you step by step through each of the things you'll need to purchase and covers every detail to ensure you'll have a successful garden. So now that we have the mixture transferred over to our box, the next step is to set up grids in our box. The advantage of a square foot gardening approach is that it has a system already defined in the book, where you can decide what plants you want to put in each square, and you can already map it out before you even start your garden. You could even grow multiple vegetables within each 1 square foot. I measured out on the side of each board 1 foot, and then nailed down a small nail and ran twine to the other side, thus creating the grids.
Okay, so here's the final garden as it came out. As you can see, I used twine to separate the individual squares. The next step is to go down, get some seed, and start planting. So I'll keep you posted.
So there you have it. I hope this video gives you a starting point to help you jump into gardening. This is all new to me, and I'm excited about the possibilities growing my own vegetables will offer. Again, I highly encourage you to check out the book, The All New Square Foot Gardening, which I'll provide a link for in the description below. As always, be safe out there.